I guess this is it, right?
Happy holidays!
And welcome again to The Last Angry DJ. It's our holiday special. And that means we're going to do things that we don't normally do. But first of all, we want to wish everybody a very happy holiday and a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, the other thing that's going on. Apparently there's a lot of them. But my name is Mitchell Hill, Mitchell Casey Hill. I'm the old guy, and then the young guy is Mr. Alexander Knight. He is the producer of the show. And Alex, why don't you say hi to everybody and wish them all a very Merry Christmas, Canadian thing.
Well, you wished everyone a Merry Christmas, so I'm going to let you do that. But I'm happy to be here, Mitch. It's good to see you and good to see everybody here. Thank you for tuning in to The Last Angry DJ. This is the podcast where we bridge the gap between the old world of terrestrial radio and new media, which is podcasts and YouTube and all of that stuff, all encompassing. And we have a great guest today. I'm very much looking forward to that conversation. And thanks to the people at Boink Software and Mimo Live for making sure this show happens. And of course, we want to acknowledge the back end crew, of course, too, Mark Giuliani and Laura Thompson.
Yeah, it's a great crew that we have here, and they all get Christmas gifts. Did you get yours yet? Alex, Mark, did you get yours yet that I sent?
Yes, thank you so much.
Do you guys know what you want for Christmas? If you don't know, here's what you want to see what I want. You have to take me off the tour. There we go. Thank you. Here's what I want for Christmas. You see that setup? Is that cool or not? It's a neon sign for The Last Angry DJ, and they sent it as a mock-up in the hopes that I would buy it real quick. I think it's very, very cool. I'd love to have it. We're accepting your donations as we speak. No, just kidding. But it's that time of the year.
Mitch, people can go to patreon.com/donate if they'd like to show their support for the show. What is that sign going to be made out of? Is it metal? Is it glass? What is it?
Made out of Chinesium. So that's stuff that you buy over there and you get it cheap over here. And before it's actually, it looks like neon. It's not, but it's a neon look-alike. And basically, it's one of the many companies. They sent it to me, Orient Neon, if you want to check it out. I'll post they have a special 20% off today. And I told them, I said, hey, if you send us one, we'll put it up on our show. Unfortunately, I'm suffering from a Italian disease called Mafunzolo, and I don't have a lot of extra money to spend for you guys. It's a gag. Okay, folks, come on, laugh at it. Come on. There we go. Thank you, Santa. And it's not the white beard. Well, anyhow, we'll get into that in just a second because I haven't introduced our guest yet. But before I do that, I just want to make note of my Christmas wreath behind me. It's hard to say that correctly. It's not a wreath. You got to get the TH. And I'm going to light it up here. You ready? 3, 2, 1. Boom. There's another on-the-air light. Okay, let's go to our guest who's here today. We have actually 2 guests, but other than Alex and myself, we have our good friend Mark Giuliani here helping out, and here he is, Mr. Walt Palmer of the industry news organization WGMD, WSX, all digital things. Walt, very good to have you here. You've been a chief engineer, a camera, a bottle washer, a trash man, all of those things for many different large organizations, and you're a little under the weather, so thanks so much for coming on in spite of that. We're all taking precautions. We're going to use lots of Prel after the show is up. But give us an idea that I don't want to just assume that you're semi-retired, but give us an idea of what you've done in your career as a broadcaster, because you've done all kinds of stuff. And then tell us how you ended up working with Mark.
Okay, very good. I was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. market, and my first job in radio was at WAMU,
WAMU.
They are the American University. They've been the number one station between them and WTOP back and forth for many, many years. I left there and went to then Metro Media, WTTG Channel 5 as a stagehand, worked there for a while, and was taken under the wing of their lighting director, who taught me the business. So I was there at Metro Media for about 8 years, left there, went to Channel 20 in Washington, a Milt Grant station, and worked there for several years, went up to Chicago and was the chief cameraman for PM Magazine. And I got in Chicago in April of 80, had a great summer, but then in September, it got so darn cold, I didn't think I was going to be able to stand it. So I applied for a job at ABC Washington and was accepted and became my first day of the working at ABC was right after Thanksgiving, 1980. And it was day 89 of America Held Hostage, which
Ah.
later became Nightline. So I worked the Nightline show, the David Brinkley show, covered the White House, Capitol Hill, chasing presidents around the world, doing a lot of things. Worked for them for about 20 years.
So a
Finally,
run and gun cameraman for news coverage,
well,
and did
I was E&G for a while, but
right.
my forte was lighting design.
Well, you know what's cool about that is to be an LD in any studio. Lighting is very sophisticated and subjective. It's not like you got to push this button and turn this knob and make this happen. You're like painting with a big canvas, and I'm doing a pretty good job here. How would you do a ruthless review of my current lighting situation here? Now, keep in mind you're a broadcaster, so it's not. I'm trying to be a little filmic. How am I doing so far?
Okay, I'm enjoying the backlight. It pulls you off the background nicely. The flashy lights in the back, I'm enjoying those. The on-air lights, a skosh hot for me,
Yeah,
but
this one.
yes, I could bring that down just a little bit. But otherwise, all you need is a cat walking through the door. You might see my golden retrievers come around the corner here sometime during this evening.
Golden retrievers.
I,
I have a soundboard too. But thank you. I appreciate that. It's a compliment from somebody that has a deep knowledge. I'm coming from being a producer, and that means I know a little bit about everything, but not enough to really make a difference. Producers are just people that get in the way when you do a shoot. But that's great to hear that you've done so many different things in the E&G world. And did you get into production at all too, like produce shows, syndicated programs, things like that? You said AM wherever you were.
yeah. Well, after we got out of ABC, my wife and I got into the embroidery business. We had one of the largest embroidery firms here on the Delmarva Peninsula. So we were featured on QVC and a number of TV shows with our work. And we pushed miles and miles of thread out of the Rehoboth Beach area. Then one day I went to visit a friend of mine who worked at WGMD radio. And they said, well, they just had a little shakeup. Their morning guy had just left and had raided some other talent and whatnot. And would I be interested in joining the team? So I did join on as the operations manager. And I have been there, I think this is my 13th year now at WGMD. So
And since you're on that subject, let's bring Mark into the conversation. Mark, what would you say that Walt does for you on a day-to-day basis now that he's working with you?
He does several things. Not only is he the engineer for the station, he's the manager of programming and production, and he wears many hats. And thank goodness, because he keeps the station going.
And Walt, how good a boss is Mark to have around?
I enjoy working with Mark. He's real good. He's very understanding at what we're trying to do. We've had to teach him a few things. We had to reteach him a few things that he seemed to have misunderstood from his previous tutor. But
So working with Huntley and Brinkley, were they more of a handful than Mark is, or Mark he's a soft touch?
Yeah, Mark's okay. David Brinkley was great because once a month he would meet us at the Silver Diner in Bethesda, Maryland, and buy us all breakfast. So
Oh, that was nice.
going out to breakfast with David Brinkley was a lot of fun.
It's all good stuff there. Appreciate that. And what's interesting about having both you guys on here, having your boss Mark, who's on here all the time anyhow, is talking about hyper-local broadcasting. We think that what you guys do with WGMD down in Rehoboth, Lewis, and WUSX in Lewis, I guess, Sussex County? Seaford, sorry about that. A little further north, a little closer to me anyhow, is that we think that there's a real interesting dynamic that's starting to happen here. The big boys are homogenized and running the same thing pretty much everywhere for economies of scale. But hyper-local is starting to catch on, I think, as a viable format for radio stations to be using, because you can't compete on a national basis against a company that's worth billions of dollars. And I know Mark knows it better than anybody. So Walt is probably like your secret weapon to help you cover a lot of bases, do a lot of different things, and be competitive in the marketplace, but also to bring back what used to be what broadcasting was all about. When I was in broadcasting originally, it was kind of a mom and pop business, if you could call Rollins Broadcasting mom and pop, but it was a whole different animal than it was. And since, Walt, you've been in the business in one way or the other since I'm hearing early 70s, maybe late 60s.
Late 60s.
That you saw it in its golden era, and you've seen it, have its, big pulse of excitement. You went through the era of the 90s when they had all this integration, buying up stations left and right, and now we're sort of in that in between stage of something. How do you see the specifics of broadcasting and the interest in listenership? Because people now have so many different things to choose from to watch or listen to or consume as media goes. How do you remain competitive in this world?
Remember, I've been in the business 50 some years now, so I'm an analog guy coping in a digital world. Back in the late 90s, a bunch of us got together and had a funeral for analog audio. Uh, and we all had to go out and learn digital. Otherwise, we'd be sweeping floors or something. So it was just a whole new learning curve about this new wave coming along, all through communications. When cell phones went from analog to digital, when radio started going digital and HD and whatnot, watching television going through the growing pains of going digital. It's been quite the learning curve. When I worked at ABC, one of the places I loved to hang out was a group called SMAG. They were the Special Maintenance Air Group. They are the folks who took Julie Barnathan's ideas and made them happen. They invented the slow-mo machine, which was a huge flying disc, a 24-inch flying disc.
Piece of metal.
Yeah, and if that thing broke loose, people were ducking, they were hiding under stuff. It was a hell of a machine. Videotape, getting into digital was a huge leap. One of the things I'm seeing a lot, and keep in mind, here in Delaware, I am the chair of the Delaware Emergency Communications Committee. I'm in charge of those funny little noises you hear on the radio every now and then telling you, had there been an emergency, tuned to a radio station. So I still have, my heart is still with an antenna that's sending out a signal to the radios, whether it be the car or the stream or wherever it's going. Look at the poor folks from Hurricane Helene that went through the Carolinas. They don't have internet. They don't have a lot of things that you just mentioned, the streams and whatnot. So I'm still a huge fan of pushing signals through the air, pushing electrons to and fro. I think that's going to be around for a while. And now that there is a push to keep AM radio in automobiles, I don't think radio is going to go away anytime soon.
Well, we'll have a very interesting time to ask. Sean Ross has agreed to be on the show. Sean has Ross on Radio, and he consults stations. Also works at Edison, which now owns Arbitron, which is one of the big rating services. So we'll have an interesting conversation about the way the ratings are going. That's the 5th, so he'll be our first guest in the new year. But I agree with you. I mean, I'm an analog, baby. I guess if you were to think about the last Angry DJ, it's the old analog guy here talking to the new tech guy, Alex. And Alex and I sort of find common ground. Sometimes not, but there's mutual respect that keeps us together. Where do you think the dividing line, Alex, between the old analog stuff and the new digital stuff is it still hovering in the same area, or is it shifting up and further and further?
Are you asking, is it shifting more towards digital?
Of course it's doing that, but where do you think we are with that conversion?
Oh, I think I'll speak to, because I don't work in broadcast, but I will speak to the live sound world has pretty much is exclusive. Well, I will say this, that people use digital consoles. Almost every engineer that I know that I've seen uses a digital console now. However, the very interesting trend, and I grew up learning how to work on analog gear in recording studios. But the interesting trend I've seen now with a lot of live sound is people are incorporating little bits and pieces of analog gear because they're realizing it gives them whatever that little extra edge in their sound that they just cannot get from an analog or from a digital desk. So you see lots of people with with high-end digital consoles now, Digicos and Midas consoles and Allen and Heath and Yamaha, and they've got Rupert Neve preamps and Rupert Neve compressors, and they're adding a little saturation to their guitar and vocal mix because it brings up the average RMS levels in the mix, and it gives them these tiny little 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% extra. It gives you that extra edge, and anything that they can do to give them an edge in how the artist sounds, makes them better at their job, makes them more successful. So it's very interesting that we're seeing people now go back to, not completely, but embracing analog again and recognizing the advantages of analog. And you know what? There's a space for both. Both can coexist happily. I don't know about radio, but in the live sound world at least, and even in recording in studios too, we're seeing a hybrid of digital and analog, because there are advantages to digital. People understand that we can recall sessions very quickly. If you had an old analog desk, it would take hours to recall a session for an artist to make any kind of little change. It's like, great, you want me to make a change to that mix? It's going to cost you 2 or 3 hours of my time to set up everything and recall out all that analog gear. So it's amazing. And we've seen new technologies as well. For example, if you've ever seen both in recording studios, but even in radio stations, everyone would have a patch bay, right? So you patch gear together. And now we have new digital patch bays from companies like Flock Audio, where you can easily, preset everything and just digitally patch things without having any physical cables, because all that stuff, patch bays, you got to clean patch bays, cables break, they're expensive. So it's very interesting. We're seeing that hybrid happen.
Yeah, the hybrid is, I embrace it. I've got an expensive Neve 8801, and it's an analog device that's digitally controlled. So it has an analog sound, but it has the convenience of digital. Walt, this is probably coming into an area that you're kind of jumping in your seat to answer, is that you've had to survive the transition in broadcast, especially in a studio, from analog to digital, and the transition between, and the elimination of things like patch bays. And now you need to embrace things like Wheatstone or Livewire, some IP-based system, A67. Have you made that transition? Because I don't think when you got into broadcasting, you thought you'd have to be an IT specialist too.
No, I had no idea. Well, I did. My first computer was a Trash 80. And then
TRS-80 Radio Shack, by the way.
Exactly. And then I also had an Apple II Plus. So I started to get into it. But WGMD is an older facility. It's been on the air 45 years. So a lot of it is still analog. We have 2 digital studios now, DS1 and DS2. And it took me a while to design them, to get them to do what I wanted them to do. Spent a lot of time with the folks at Telos Alliance getting support. Just because the analog side is going, well, no, the digital side needs to do this. So trying to learn how to do that took.
So that makes you a live wire house using
Yes.
By the way, Frank Foti was on some weeks ago.
I saw it.
The head boss man of Telos, and he and Steve Church, who's no longer with us, created a lot of this IP stuff. There's really like 2 or 3 maybe manufacturers out there that sort of the standards. And they're sort of all converging, I guess. because you have a Wheatstone board or a live wire board, an Axia, I guess that is, or yeah, an Axia. So what kind of boards are you guys using at your stations?
Well, I've got my analog is a D75 Wheatstone or Audio Arts,
Right.
and in the news studio and production, yeah, there you go. In the news studio, I'm using Air Ones. Over here in my studio, I've got an Air 3 that I took down to Wheatstone one day. Said, "Here, make this work." Oh, and give me the tour too. It was great. What a fantastic facility they have down in Newbern, North Carolina. Um, and then we've got the Axia in Digital Studio 2. In Digital 1, we're using the Mix Pre 3s.
Oh, interesting.
Just because Digital Studio 1 is, well, where Mark is, he's in DS1 right now. So he's got a little Mix Pre 3, and he's using that both for his IFB and to push audio to the network here.
Yeah,
So-
the mix pre's are sound devices, just top of the line audio preamps, and they make everything from the little mix pre's all the way up to the big boys. And you see guys running around with the news crews and stuff like that. They probably got or film. They've got the sound devices strapped on their audio rack or whatever they're carrying around. If I could interrupt just for a second here, Mark, do we have any people asking questions to Walt about what's going on in the
Yes,
broadcast
we
world?
do. We have a number of questions here.
Uh-oh.
All right. So, Bob from Millsboro, Delaware, what do you think the future of radio will be?
Well, that's just a real good question. My 8 ball or crystal ball, it is on the fence. While I enjoy the thoughts of going into the future and all the digital and streaming and whatnot, I'm still a huge fan of pushing the signal up the tower. I think that's where WGMD excels because we are local. And I know I have a certain radius that I can broadcast to. And one of the big problems I have is what is too local? If I start talking about the problems of one town, is that going to make the guys on the other side of the state tune out because I'm spending too much time talking about Dewey Beach and not Georgetown, Delaware, or whatever? As you get into national or streaming, and now your audience is growing and growing. When we first started streaming the station, we had a couple of big hurricanes come up the coast, Hurricane Sandy being one. We had a couple of guys email us. They were sitting at a bar in London. They had found us, and they were listening to our coverage of the hurricane. We went hyperlocal live for 44 straight hours, mainly because we have an older audience, an older population here, not including Dewey Beach. That's a whole nother can of worms. But because we had an older audience, a lot of those people were getting freaked out because they were by themselves for whatever reason. So it was a friendly voice. They could call in and say, "Oh, we're hearing this, we're seeing that. Oh, the lights are flashing. What's going on?" So we were their eyes and ears. We were able to help them weather the storm.
It's great. It's great you were doing that because there are some stations in the area while that was going on that are owned by a big conglomerate. I won't say who, iHeart. But anyhow, they weren't even in the studio. It was running the old automation, and it was they were talking. Everything's fine, nothing going on here, you know.
Exactly.
Meanwhile, you guys were managing to do some hyper. See, that's where you compete, where the big guys aren't prepared to cover events like that on a local basis as well as you guys are. So, Mike, my hat's off to you.
And being part of the Delaware Emergency Communications Committee, for years we had made it practice not to make it mandatory to announce hurricane warnings and advisories for stations because we figured, oh, the commercial broadcasters, everybody's going to be on it at the beach. Well, now that there's no hometown requirements for studios or offices, and it's coming off a bird somewhere, they have no idea what's going on. So starting this year, the Delaware EAS plan now requires that you have to put in hurricane, well, of course, tornado and blizzards and wind and whatnot, but now you also have to include hurricane warnings.
So does that include like yellow alerts for missing children or other nefarious things going on?
We provide that. That's not a required event.
Okay, good. Mark, any other questions coming through?
Oh, yes. So, next question is from Martha in Dewey Beach, Delaware. If you could change one thing about the radio industry today, what would it be?
Years ago, I studied very, very hard to get this. This is my FCC first class radio operator's license. Granted, it was back in the analog days, but if you were going to be in engineering, you had to be licensed. Today, and just in the last couple of years, the FCC has changed that, so anybody can go mess with a transmitter. If Mark got up and he could go out and mess with that transmitter and throw it all out of whack. And it's happening in a lot of markets where the owner is now responsible for the transmitter. So anybody can monkey with it. I just find that a dangerous thing, that because the bandwidth, because of how tightly packed. Remember here in Market 132, Salisbury, Ocean City, there are 42 active radio signals.
Wow.
New York only has 28, New York City. So here we've got, granted, we don't have the huge signals, but even the Class A 6,000 watts, there's a mess of us. And my biggest market to the west is Washington, D.C. I've got Baltimore I have to contend with, and Philly. And of course, where you are, Mitch, in Wilmington, Delaware. So you have all these signals blowing through the area, and you have to watch them very tightly. So if you get somebody out there monkeying with the transmitter, it can cause havoc pretty quickly.
Well, this is an interesting part of the conversation because Alex and I have talked about this. And a question I hear Alex ask often, who's coming up the ranks to be chief engineers at stations that understand RF and the vagaries of making FCC spec? Again, I had my first class license way back when, and I earned it. Yep. But I wouldn't go messing around that transmitter. It'd be dangerous, first of all, much less what you might end up doing to the signal. We were in a 5-tower, 3 pattern system. So any small incremental adjustment, if I decided to crank one of the phaser cabinets, would cause a problem for the next, checkpoints that they were out there measuring. But Alex, you might as well ask the question because we have it over and over. How do we bring people through the system that understand all these things?
Yeah, that was actually something I wanted to talk to Walt about because, it used to be that, to a degree it is now, but it used to be that you would apprentice with someone and you would just kind of just jump right in, just start learning how to do that job. But it seems like I did ask somebody about this a couple years back, and it seems like now the path is, if I wanted to be a broadcast engineer, that you have to go, I think there's some specialized schooling you have to do in order to do something like that. I don't think they'll just hire anybody to, like, would you hire somebody who, like, if I came to you and I said, look, I've got 25 years of audio engineering experience, I've done stuff in studios, I've done live sound, but now I want to do something different. Would you take someone under your wing, or do they have to go to school and get a piece of paper that says that they're an engineer?
I have, Mark allowed me to hire a young lady right out of high school. She went to the Sussex Tech High School, and her grandfather taught electronics there. So she has a basic understanding of electronics. But Julia Snurdley, as we call her, is learning, and I think she's very sharp. She's very good at what she does. She's learning analog. She's very good at digital. She helps Mark and I build the digital side of the video studios. She does a good job understanding that. She's very good at editing. So I can give her a task and she does it in no time. One of the other things that I would look at for somebody coming up from the ranks, which I'm sorry to say is not doing so well, is ham radio operators. I'm an amateur radio guy. W4ALT is my call. All the ham guys are used to monkeying around with stuff and taking a pile of wires and make them do something, make them work. Because of these devices now, the cell phone, the kids aren't getting into ham radio as much. And the ham community is getting older and older, and it's not being bolstered up from below, much like radio engineering. But where I am seeing the younger folks show up is in IT, because with digital, that's the wave of the future. So I
Right.
think
So, and are you saying that there's perhaps if somebody is technically minded and they got a basic background, and if they are getting into IT, is that the path into maybe specializing in broadcast engineering is through that IT path?
yes, I agree, because as you said, there's no patch bays anymore. We don't
Right.
have to go out and polish the plugs every now and then. You just go push a button. So
Yeah.
I believe IT is the wave of the future.
Yeah,
That is
IT's
a
taking
direction.
over in the digital transitions, as both you guys have been talking about. And it was funny back in the day, radio being what it was. I remember the chief engineer was the guy that he made the transmitter work. He fixed the studio. He cleaned the floor. If there was a pot going bad on the console, he had jumped in and fixed that. If the plumbing backed up, he had to fix that. Anything that had any moving parts or mechanical stuff going on, it was a pretty broad, definition for what a chief engineer was. But today it's like 10 times worse because you're having to do more with less. It's pretty tough. Mark, did you have a question you wanted to
Well,
pop in
I
with?
just wanted to take the opposite side. As an owner, I wanted to say that we have other owners here in Delmarva that have been able to do much better than their hired engineers. They've been able to get their signal to increase by, I don't know, 100-fold, and be able to reach parts of the peninsula they're not supposed to be able to reach. And so I can think of one that Walt knows that has turned this little dial up on his transmitter and gotten himself in a little bit of trouble.
So we're talking about somebody that cranked their power up a little beyond the specifications for that. Who manages that? The FCC is supposed to be monitoring that. And,
The
you
last
could
time
drop a
we knew
dime on
there-
somebody, can't you?
The last time we knew there was an FCC gumshoe in the area was years ago, and he was here to go fishing.
They're probably too busy fighting all the pirate stations that are coming up the eastern
By the way,
area.
Mitch, we got John Preto in the chat saying hi to Mark.
Oh, there you go. Back at you, John.
Hey,
We
John.
love you. He's a regular on the show. So it's very interesting how this conglomeration of jobs and job titles and people and innovative folks like Mark that's moving an RF broadcast terrestrial radio station into the world of digital and trying to plant 1 foot firmly in one and 1 foot firmly in the other and cover both of those bases. How's it working? Is it working? Is it working out for you guys? Both of you can answer, or one of you.
Of course it is. It's working out very well. I mean, look at the smile on Walt's face. That says it all right there. No, I think we're having a good time. We're trying lots of different things. We're trying the technology we're using right here. We've been able to bring that into some of the shows that we do here to great success, and we have followers now that have started using some of these new technologies and get very upset when we have a bad day.
Got it. So your competition is expanding into different areas, and you're doing it well. And it takes a passionate owner like yourself, Mark, to fund that. And it takes you're very lucky to have somebody like Walt available because he's way more than a contract engineer that just comes in when you have a problem. He's helping you with your strategy and what you're doing content-wise on the air, which you normally don't find with a chief engineer. In my experience, chief engineers were tone deaf, and I had no idea what kind of music that should be played. But apparently, Walt knows what he's talking about. Walt, who's your current favorite artist? Do you know who Taylor Swift is?
I've seen her boyfriend play football.
Okay. Well, that's a good. Yeah, you got a connection there.
There you go.
And speaking of which, when you're making decisions, if you were to play music for the holidays, I know 3 songs that would never get played on my radio station. What are your worst nightmare songs for the holidays? Alex, I'll start with you. What don't you want to hear?
Oh, I am generally not I feel like every time I talk to people about Christmas music or holiday music in general, I sound like a jerk because I'm not a big fan of most of it. I like when people
jerk.
do. I feel like people. I like it when people do covers of Christmas music but make it their own and do something different with it. Some songs, some traditional songs are okay. A lot of them I feel are pretty tired, but I like it when people do kind of interesting things with older material, which is kind of just fun and just something fresh, something new.
I've got something fresh if you guys like to hear it. It's real quick. Here it is. This is my idea of great Christmas music.
Trim up the tree with Christmas stuff, like bingo balls, like bingo balls, bingo balls, balls, bingo balls.
Anyhow, a little creative editing there, and you got a song everybody can listen to. Instead of Mariah Carey, All I Want for Christmas, or Wings, and Happy Wonderful Christmas, or George Michael, and Last Christmas. Those are songs I just don't need to hear. I'd rather hear the Jingle Balls song there. Walt, what song don't you want to hear on the radio?
Well, when they first came out, Mannheim Steamroller
Mannheimer,
and Pentatonics were big. They've rubbed me the wrong way. I do not air them on the station.
Okay, that's too much. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I'm more of the old traditional stuff, or a cover of the old traditional stuff. Probably the newest thing in my rotation right now is Dave DuBois from Baltimore. All I Want is Crabs for Christmas.
Yeah, that's right up there with what's his name? He's got the song Walking Around in Women's Underwear. That's an excellent song. I think you should all play it for the entire family. And let me jump up to Mark and see what songs don't you want to hear on the radio?
Well, I'll probably get a lot of grief for this, but and it's
You're going to get more grief than I just did?
It's
Come
a good
on.
cause, but if I hear the Cars for Kids commercial one more time, that or
That's such a
Chipmunks,
catchy tune, though.
that or Chipmunks singing Christmas music.
Yeah, it's easy. David
We play that a
Seville.
lot here.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. And how about stations playing Christmas music in July heading into the holidays? Apparently, it's a big ratings winner for a lot of stations. So
Well,
you guys are...
a
Yeah, go
couple
ahead,
of
Walt.
stations in this market flipped to Christmas the day after the elections.
Wow.
That seems a little excessive to me.
So it's a political thing.
Yes.
Okay, so now that we got that, that's good to know. So, I mean, speaking of Christmas, lots of things going on. Obviously, the music and the program. You have to adjust your programming to suit the people that are bustling around looking for the last-minute gifts. Next week is Christmas, and this is our Christmas special. So let me ask you guys, what do you consider to be something that you want for Christmas? And I'll start with Walt. What do you want for Christmas, Walt?
I would like a new transmitter. We're running Class A at both of our facilities. One is an old Harris. It's a workhorse. Don't get me wrong. I love that thing, but the new Nautels that are doing some fantastic work, and they're fun to tune up, and they're just old workhorses. The other transmitter we have is a Class A, a Cresso from WorldCast, and it was a neat idea, but it was poorly executed, so I'm always having to go fuss with it to make it sound right. But the big problem it has, they didn't quite put enough gold on some of the connectors, so I'm having to go make and break connectors just to get the crud off of them so they sound nice.
All right. Well, so my vote for you is Nautel. I think they make great stuff. And they're
I
right up
agree.
there almost in Canada. Aren't they actually in Canada? They're way up north. That's all I know.
Yeah, and
company.
it's nice looking stuff.
Nice stuff. And Mark, are you willing to grant any of his Christmas wishes?
Are you kidding me?
He's the guy that's going to
humbug.
pay for it.
We need so many things around here. We need a building. We need too many other things around here. We need two more outputs on the main airboard so I can get the sound to work right.
Mark, do you guys have an Omnia processor in your chain?
Yes.
Nice.
Omni is good. They're good stuff. So, Mark, what do you want? Because I know what Walt wants, and you're not willing to grant his Christmas wish. What do you got?
We need a lot. We need a ton of things around here, and we're working
Okay.
our way through the list. I have a huge bucket list.
He's got a bucket, and he's got
It
a
never
list for
ends. You should see my bucket list for this setup and for this studio. It's like I just can continually. There's one more piece getting added to the chain every time.
Alex, you're suffering from gear acquisition syndrome because I've been
Well,
watching
that's part of it.
your purchases. I don't know, you got a deep credit card going for you, but I could barely afford to have the lights on behind me.
Doing the best I can here. I just want this to look and sound good. That's all.
Oh, now I know what Mark means when he tells me I have gas. Gear acquisition syndrome.
No, he really means you have gas.
You know what we really need around here is more gaff tape just to hold the place together.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what? I can grant you that with I got a nice big roll of the actual stuff right here. Always keep it handy.
Is that good stuff?
I have
the
good
what
stuff.
What brand?
It's the Gaff. It's Pro Gaff from B&H. So this is the good stuff. And you know the thing with gaff tape, it holds. It's like the people in the production business. It's their version of duct tape, but it's not quite the same. This is the stuff you put it on a wall somewhere and you pull it off. You don't yank the drywall along with it. And then every year I give away a CD of Christmas hits on it. Does anybody get it? What does that say to you? It says no L. No L.
No L. Ah, ha, ha.
See, you guys got it.
Oh,
Yeah, thank you, Santa. And back to me. I wanted something very badly for Christmas, and somebody helped grant this. All of our viewers and listeners and some other friends have made this possible for me. I've been trying so desperately to get another corgi since Paddywhack passed away. If you know me well, Paddywhack and I were close, and we now reached our goal. I'm able to get a purebred corgi. I'm going to probably do it in the spring. So I've got that coming my way. That's the greatest gift of all, to have a nice fur baby as my buddy, because I'm single. You know, I need to have somebody keep me company and keep it going well, and he will certainly help. And thank you. I see a lot of people on YouTube are giving me some hearts. Thanks very much. It's that time of the year. What can you do? So, Mark, I'm going to jump into you and ask if there's any more questions that we can give over to Walt to continue things.
There are, and I'm going to jump over because Mr. Preto has a question for Walt. So bear with me. I'm going to be out of frame here while I try and read it. And it says, ask Walt what the old-time mnemonic for the resistor color code is. Laugh out loud.
bad boys rape our young girls, but Violet gives willingly.
Wow. Why would you memorize? You're talking about the color code.
The color codes on
resistor.
transistors, yes.
Yeah, the little bands of color.
Exactly. And each one had a numerical value, and that's how you knew how to read a transistor.
You jumped in with that awfully quick. I just go to the, what is it?
Google.
Yeah, Google. Hey, Google. What's the color code? Anyhow, you're getting hearts on that, so congratulations. And John, thanks for asking such a, interesting question. Old school. Did people actually take resistors and use them for things anymore? Nobody does surface mount. What are you going to say? Don't go there. It's a family show. So, go ahead, Marcus. Do we have any other?
Okay, so we have, yes, Alfred from Rehoboth Beach. How do you measure success for the station? Through ratings, community impact, or something else?
We do not subscribe to the ratings. And the reason we don't, one, is they're horribly expensive. We just finished being in the ratings period, I think ended this December 4th. And we're waiting for the numbers to come out, but we do not subscribe because there are so many people in this area, but they only send out maybe 1,000 or so books. And this is still a book rating system. It's not the PPMs. So they have to fill out a diary, and then you go through, and some of them get thrown out for whatever reason. Some people don't return it. They put the crisp new dollar in their pocket and walk away. And some of them, when you get down to it, you're getting the opinion of 400 and some people. And when that's spread across 42 stations in a market, statistically, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
And
the
I'm not
waiting
gonna-
factor. Yeah, the waiting factor alone, especially 18 to 25-year-old men, is horrendous because there might be 3 or 4 people deciding, who's successful in that particular demographic because of the sample rate is so low.
Well,
I
and there's
agree with you. It's always
400,
been
there's over 400,000 potential listeners in the market. So you're going to go off of 400?
yeah.
and pay $45,000 for somebody's best guess. But,
Now,
but
if the results were showed you that with a huge increase of listeners and something that you could sell out there, would you still buy? I guess you can't buy it after the fact, right?
no, but you can make an appointment and go to the special room at Nielsen over in Columbia, Maryland,
Mechanicals.
and they'll let you look at them. You can't
Yep.
take notes. You can't take pictures. You need to hire somebody with a photographic mind. They can go in there and take snapshots of the mind, then come out and tell you what he saw.
And I've seen those diaries as they're filled out. And let me tell you, these are people with no teeth, perhaps no education, maybe way south of the border. And I'm getting into trouble doing here. But it's unbelievable that people don't know how to write or can't stay between the lines or other ridiculous comments that they make about the radios. I like to listen to your station on my filling and my back molar because it comes in really well in the morning, but towards night, I can't hear anything.
Well, one
Yeah,
of the
so
things that we got credit for was one entry. Our moniker is the Talk of Delmarva. Somebody wrote in, they didn't remember WGMD, they didn't remember 92.7. They wrote in the Biscuits of Delmarva, and we got credit for it.
All right. So the methodology of Arbitron / Nielsen, if you're using the old-fashioned diary method, is questionable. We're going to have a chance to talk to somebody about that. He's coming in not this next week, but our first show in January, and is a member of Edison Research. So we'll have a chance to delve into that a little bit more and give them a chance to defend themselves. So that's a very interesting question. And certainly you live or die, at least in the big markets, on the basis of your ratings. I mean, when I worked at WFIL in Philadelphia, if the ratings came out and I didn't improve on them, my job was in jeopardy. And it was very typical to be, okay, see you later. Your ratings aren't good. Or your ratings are great, but we're going to I'd say, well, where's my raise? You get to keep your job. So that was about all I ever got in return for it. Mark, any other questions coming in?
Yes, there are. So, Frank from Lincoln, Delaware. What strategies do you use to attract new listeners while retaining your loyal audience?
We are a conservative talk station. We tend to just to change a little bit on the weekends. We're doing more sports. So we are a Ravens affiliate. They did well. They're doing fairly well right now. We are an Orioles affiliate. So we're down. Oh, NASCAR. We've now added NASCAR to our lineup on the weekends. Just to the big problem we find, especially right after the election, is political fatigue. So we try to ease things up a little bit, to make it a little more palatable, so you're not getting beat up with politics all the time. On the weekends, we'd have some fun shows. The Car Doctor, the Dirt Doctor, the Pet Show, just general stuff. Going back to the previous question, how do you measure success? When I hear one of my listeners calling into a national show saying, "Oh yeah, I listened. Here I am in Delaware, and here's my question," they're listening to this stuff we're putting up on the tower, up on the stream. That's very gratifying to me, to know that we're pushing something out that people are enjoying and participating in.
Again, this is all part of being hyper local, and as Walt just mentioned, that takes a lot of work. It's a lot of work to run a talk or a news operation in any market. It's a little bit easier to play music, particularly if it's off a satellite and is running automation and they're doing voice tracking. It's not like the old days when you had to have somebody in that room actually spinning the records, playing the commercials, and reading tags and stuff. It's a lot more complicated, at least on the talking side of it. But every radio station, I think, on the planet now, with some exceptions, perhaps Motorola's on police cars, are automated. they're run with some kind of automation. What do you guys use at your station cluster to automate?
We are on the Encode DAD system, digital audio delivery. Is it
Are
the
you,
best in town? No. Is it the worst in town? No. It has its peculiarities, but after dealing with it for 12, 15 years, I can make it sing.
yeah, and they've got all kinds of stuff, including closed captioning. And I just saw they now integrated AI into it. So how does AI figure into the equation here as far as radio goes?
We have a traffic service that we subscribe to, Radio Workflow, and they were one of the first to get into the AI voicing, and we're using it more and more. Do I like it? Sometimes. Um, they just added a feature to it now so I can voice map by the sentence, by the line. So instead of a sentence going and ending down, it can make it sound exciting and it's just the stuff that you're trying to push in a commercial. So the voice mapping is helping with the delivery through AI. Sometimes it'll glitch and it'll like that song you were playing with the jingle bells. It's the stutter bells there. It occasionally it will do that, so it's amusing to hear that.
Trim up the tree with Christmas stuff, like bingo balls, like bingo balls, bingo.
Yeah, that's
Oh, well,
kind of
so
stuff.
much for that. That's
Um,
cool.
So it is. Oh, as Mark will tell you, he has heard a couple of demonstrations where two AI voices will have a discussion, and they go back and forth and they talk, and it's fairly lucid, but it doesn't go anywhere.
I
It's
can't believe what Google calls Alexa. It's sometimes funny to hear them cursing at each other. I don't know what that's all
It's
about.
funny that you mentioned that about AIs having conversations, Walt, because I've been testing Google's Notebook LM, and I uploaded a PDF of the manual of a Symmetrix 528E mic processor, and it had two people really enthusiastic about talking about the super nerdy technical document, and it was just hilarious. I don't think I could really listen to it for very long, but it was pretty impressive just as a technological demo for the two AIs to have a conversation and actually to explain something that's technical and make it really simple to understand, which I think is pretty cool. But I'm trying to think of the application, a practical application, maybe in an educational sense. There might be a future for something like that for kids.
I'm sorry to jump in again here. This is just coming in from YouTube. Alex, is there a question coming in from Shoji Productions you can ask us?
Robert was just asking if there's something that we're angry about. I'm not sure I'm angry about anything right now, other than the fact that looks like there's a memory leak either in Mac OS or the new version of Mimo Live that I was fighting before the show. But no, you know what? There's a lot to be thankful for. I'm trying to stay positive that hey, look, I've got people that care about me, people that I care about. I've got a job. I've got a roof over my head, food. I try to stay positive these days.
And I am too, except I have about half of those things that Alex has, because Alex got a new console, he's got new Dante, maybe a new camera. And the other thing that I'm really mad about that I'd really like to get rid of is this thing right here. I'm not sure how to get rid of that. It's kind of stuck there. I don't know. I don't know what it's like. Yeah, like that. It's what it is. I can't get rid of this thing. So I got to keep this camera angle. I can't change the camera angle. As soon as I go over here, I'm in deep trouble. So it does nothing. You know what? I'm over 70.
Have you tried turtlenecks? Something
Turtle
with
wax?
A big.
I should try turtle wax.
Turtleneck,
turtlenecks.
something with a big.
Are they tasty?
You need like a 4-inch collar here.
All right. Maybe I should just button up my shirt like this.
Dude, just try different wardrobe. That's all.
Walt, how are you dealing with age? I mean, you're no spring chicken to it, but you're still hanging in there. Good for you.
No, it's I go to work every morning. I love my job. I can't think of anything I'd rather do. I've been in broadcasting all my career, except for a few years where my wife and I got into the embroidery business. But being able to go out and push audio into the air. That's just extremely cool to me.
Are you
To
still
be ab-
climbing towers?
No, I'm
Oh,
barely
come on.
I'm barely able to climb a ladder these days.
No tower climbing. You know, it's
No.
unusual for a small owner to own his own tower. So
And we own two
Mark,
towers.
I was going to say, you guys got two of them.
Yeah.
So, Mark, did you hang anything else on those towers? Just your signal.
I was trying to get Walt to climb to the top to put the wreath on, but
Hey, Walt, if you climb the tower in the next few days, wear your Santa outfit, because I think that would definitely make national news.
I'm afraid I'd get shot at. They would think I was a drone.
Yeah, exactly. What are those drones, anyhow, that are hanging around New Jersey? Anybody have any theories on that? Come on, Alex. I know you have some kind
Oh,
of
let's
theory.
not get into that. Come on.
But they're everywhere. All of a sudden, they're just flying over 400 feet.
I think what a lot of that is that
Mass
people
hysteria.
what people are seeing is drones. They're seeing planes, helicopters, and they think it's something else when it's not.
I went out the other day.
I'm not saying the military doesn't look. The military probably tests a lot of experimental aircraft, and I think people are seeing that. The likelihood of I think it's really unlikely that an advanced civilization capable, by the way, they would have to be capable of warp faster than light travel to be able to get here. If they had that capability, would they really just randomly fly around, that close to the ground? I think they would have technology to basically shield themselves properly.
Yeah, I think it's a
from
problem that they could fly millions of light years and then crash when they get here.
Right.
Or do a probe a cow in a pasture somewhere. It just does not go together very well for me. But anyhow,
Yeah,
exactly.
And keep in mind that our station in Rehoboth Beach is just down the street from the president's summer beach home.
Yeah.
So if the drones were to show up around here, that when he's in town, they would definitely be shot down.
Yeah, and he's no stranger to cattle prods, so go whatever. So what are you going to do? Let's change the subject here briefly. Mark, do we have any cleanup questions here to
yes,
wrap up?
we have several questions still here on deck, and one of them is from our friend John Idelson from California. Is over-the-air analog broadcasting going to be a thing of the past, like the horse and carriage?
I don't think so. Again, I referencing the folks in the hurricane area in North Carolina. They're not going to have a stream. They're not going to be able to get the internet. They're still living in tents from an event that happened several months ago. The only way that they're hearing about what's going on is their little crank battery operated radio. So I think over the air is going to be around for a while. Congress is working on writing legislation to make it mandatory to keep AM in vehicles. So I don't think it's going to go anywhere anytime soon.
And for what it's worth, there are still horse and buggies still being used. The only people that I think suffered from that were the buggy whip manufacturers. They're the ones that got hurt on that. Mark, what's next?
So, well, just to touch base on that question for a little bit, I think it's going to be analog broadcasting is going to be here for a while. And it's going to be here for a while partly because people are getting sick and tired of being nickeled and dimed every month for all these subscriptions. And if you look at the actual numbers that are put out by SiriusXM, if you look at them closely, you'll discover that the number of listeners is the free subscriptions that they give out when you buy a new car. That there's the renewal subscription rate is very low. So people are getting to the point where everybody's nickel and diming them for all these subscriptions. To the consumer, radio is free. So it's I think something that's going to be there. Especially when you make it local and you make it about topics that they want to talk about.
Yeah, I know people that buy cars and trade them in as soon as their 6-month SiriusXM free membership is gone, and the car's gone. They get rid of it. But, it's interesting about all these streaming services. They all kind of suffer. I'm just kidding, folks. Let's all relax. Take a step back. Take a breath. Okay, very good. Anyhow, is that, a lot of these services, if you negotiate with them, they'll change their price for you. I'm not saying that Sirius is going to do it as soon as you call them on the phone, but I've called them before, and they value you as a subscriber more than they do as a paying customer because it looks good on their books. So keep that in mind when you're worried about, your Disney Plus or your Paramount Plus or one of the many services out there that stream. Yes, it's very competitive out there. Yes, we are trying to, make ends meet with tightening economy and things like that. Sometimes some services are going to go, but that's evolution. It's always been around. Same thing with radio. Some stations can be up there in the ratings, but only one of them can be number one. So who's number one in Delmarva?
Typically Froggy is number one. And I am an alum of Froggy. My air name, I was the weather guy. My name was Water Ponder. The other station is the urban station down in Salisbury. That's big in the market. They're always flipping back and forth 1 and 2.
Yeah,
News
well,
Talk,
it used to be that with the ratings, the way they worked is that everybody could be number one in some small pocket of the listenership. So they would say, well, we're number one with people that wear sunglasses at night.
yeah, and that's the funny thing about reading the numbers is you can have them do whatever you want them to do.
Understood. Mark, get some more?
Yes, yes. So Joan would like to know if there are any upcoming shows or segments that you are particularly excited about.
Well, I'm glad you asked. We are working on a project for January 20th. A number of our listeners, and again, I'm there in my age group, are saying that they wanted to go down to Washington for the inauguration. But I have done 10 inaugurations in my lifetime, and they're a lot of fun. And if you're feeling good and you've got a place to get out of the weather and a place to get something to eat and a place to go to the bathroom, that's great. But I had a problem trying to say, yeah, we'll get a bus together and it'll drive as close as it can get, which might be 10 miles from the Capitol, and to put all these folks out, and then you're on your own for 10 or 12 hours. I have a problem with that. So what we have decided to do is we have organized a watch party. And we have a facility that we're using in Georgetown, Delaware. We'll put up big screen TVs in the room. It'll be heated. It'll be air conditioned. They have a restaurant. They have a bathroom. They have a bar. They have internet service. They have everything you need to come in and be with other people to watch the inauguration. We were able to use our affiliate power to get in touch with our friends at Newsmax. We are a Newsmax affiliate. We are the Rob Carson Show, weekdays noon to 3. We have Rob coming to do his show from our watch party. So not only will we have our local friends at the party, at noon, Rob will be on the air broadcasting to his 75 station network about what we're doing in Delaware. So that's kind of exciting to us. We've also been told that Newsmax Television will use some video from us. Have Rob go on the air and say, these are what the folks are doing here in Delaware, the home of the president who just left the Capitol Hill area. So that's the next exciting project for us.
What else you have there, Mark? And you're muted.
All right. Can you share some of the station's history and how it has evolved over the years?
Yeah, we can do that. The station started in 1976 as WLRB, Lewis, Rehoboth Beach. It started out as a music station, and it was purchased by 3 gentlemen, Giuliani, McCord, and Shoemaker. Shoemaker was the broadcaster. He worked with CBS, worked with Cronkite. He knew the business. Mr. Giuliani, who was Mark's dad, was an architect, and Mr. McCoy was a salesman, a super duper salesman, sold industrial things. So they bought several stations, and over the years they moved the other stations along, but they kept WGMD. And we have been WGMD since 1980. It went from Sunny 92, playing adult hits, adult classics. In the, what was it, mid-90s mark? It
Mid-90s.
started to flip over towards news talk.
We were the first FM station to carry Rush Limbaugh. And it took
Yes.
David 6 months to convince Rush to do an FM station rather than AM, which is where most of the stations were.
Very cool. You got any other questions there?
One last one, I think. What role does community engagement play in your station's operations?
If something goes right, we don't hear much about it. If something goes wrong, my email's blowing up, my phone's blowing up, people will let us know that something isn't right. We had a news story we put out the other day. It was issued by the Lewis Police Department. We got a very stern email from somebody saying, well, that's impossible. What they're saying, it can't be done with technology. And if you want to know the right way to do things, get in touch with somebody who knows what they're talking about. I didn't know what to say to the poor guy, but I'm going to look into it. Feedback is what's important to me when it comes to community engagement. What is, we talked about this earlier, what is too local? What is hyper local? Do people want to hear about the region they're in? They want to hear about the neighborhood they're in? Do they want to hear about the street they're on? How local is too local? And where do you start having people tune out? Our signals reach Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, and New Jersey. A part of our signal goes out to the fish at sea. We do the marine weather at the bottom of the hour. And people will call and raise a stink with me saying, it's a blizzard outside, there's 50-foot seas. And why are you running the marine weather? Nobody in their right mind is going to be out there. Well, yeah, they are. We're on a shipping lane for big vessels going up to Philadelphia. And I will get emails or phone calls from the radiomen on those ships saying, yeah, we're 50 miles out. We're hearing your signal. Sounds good. And here are the conditions we're seeing right now. We have the boaters will call in and say, yeah, we caught this huge fish and fishing's great right now. If we miss a fishing report, I catch it. I hear all about it. We're a beach community, so folks want to know about that.
Would you guys consider running the Star Wars Christmas special?
On the 9th day of Sith, miss my Dark Lord gave to me 9 admirals choking, 8 R2's beeping, 7...
R2D2 says, Happy Holidays.
And that's going to wrap up our program. The often not seen and most often not heard, the Star Wars Christmas special, among other things. This is our Christmas special. We want to thank Walt Palmer for coming in, the chief engineer, operations guy for Mark radio station. I call Walt Mark Walt. You guys sort of like merging together here for me.
My beard's bigger.
It's the beard. And Mark, thank you as usual, and all the other folks that make this show possible, and our Christmas special. I'm just having some fun here with my new toys. Alex, how do folks get in touch with us if they want to complain about all those weird sounds?
Yeah, there's actually multiple avenues that we can field those complaints to. You can email us by going to thelastangrydj.com/contact. Of course, you can reach out to us on our Discord server as well. I'm going to leave the QR code up on the screen here over my left shoulder here. So if you scan that, that will allow you to get into our Discord community where we can continue the conversation after the show ends. We look forward to your feedback and participation there. Of course, we're also on social media at The Last Angry DJ on all platforms as well. Almost forgot about that. And of course, if you prefer to listen to this as a podcast, I don't always remind people about this, but we are available as an audio podcast on all platforms. Apple Podcasts, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music. We're even on iHeartRadio, I think. So we're across all platforms.
And I just thought I had some theme music as we said the last way to get in touch with us. Next week, it's going to be the broadcast boffins. Me and Alex are going to talk about what happened this past year, what's going on with the drones, and why do you keep playing those weird sound effects and noises that you do on the show. And the week after that, our good friend Sean Ross will be on, who works at Edison Media Research. He's also a consultant for radio. We look forward to having him on the first show in January. In the meantime, want everybody, including all of you guys here, to have yourselves a very happy holiday. There's so many different holidays to celebrate, also Christmas. Make sure you all take care of yourselves. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel. In the meantime, take care and be good.